Okay, let's do a quick mic check. Test, test, 1, 2. Streaming remote today on the road. Let's see how that comes out. Give me 1 second, chat. Can you guys hear me? Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. Sweet. Got it. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, cool. Awesome. Thanks. Sorry about that, guys. Hello, everybody. Welcome to VKH Live. I am your host, Jeff DeWitt. I am streaming in a remote location. Had to go out of town, some doctor's appointments and whatnot. So I apologize for the cameraless setup and a little bit of quick testing and things like that. Just wanted to make sure the stream did not devolve into tin can status. I've got myself in a pretty good portable mode as is right now. Anybody watching live, please let me know if the stream starts buffering or anything weird like that. It looks good to me right now, and I'm on weird internet as it is. But yes, so we are here back for another Monday doubleheader. This was going to be our Tuesday doubleheader last week, but I had some extenuating circumstances, had to delay it to the next time where I wanted our Patreon backer to be around for to see this live stream live, because this is in fact a patron request. So this once again, this is me running catch up with Kimiko, who's been very patient and also very generous in supporting us over the last few months. And so we are going to be doing 2 more of her requests for streams, stream topics and artist profile topics. So we're going to do this one, and then we've got 1 more at 7:30. So let's go ahead and just dive right into it. But this was requested by Kimiko, and thank you very much, Kimiko, for supporting us, and for the great suggestion, by the way, because this is, in fact, Oblivion Dust. And Oblivion Dust is a really good band. Like, I really like this band. I'm really glad I was introduced to this band. I'm really glad Kimiko recommended it. By the way, if you would like to support VKH on Patreon, there's a link to this artist profile that I'm going to go through in the description. At the top is a link to our Patreon. If you would like to support us, you can support us on here. It doesn't have to be for it can be as low as $1 a month. You can also just donate and get your message read live on stream. Also, believe it or not, just watching the stream all the way through, watching the video all the way through, that actually supports us as well. So, it's the monetary donation is great, but these will always be free, and it will never be mandatory for us to take payment for our press coverage. So don't sweat it if it's not something that you're up for right now. Helping us get the watch time on YouTube actually does help us make a lot of progress towards monetization. So we always appreciate our regular viewers who are just here and watching the streams all the way through. I see it on the back end, and it really helps out because I talk to other streamers, and it's hard to get people to sit through an entire stream. And it's very clear that there are some of you that when the topic is right, when we're talking about cool stuff, you guys are here all the way through. So we're super grateful for that. I definitely wanted to point that out as I continue to shill this Patreon and the donations and stuff, that we absolutely do appreciate, our regular viewers that will watch, so much of these streams. So speaking of so much of these streams, let's dive right into Oblivion Dust. So who is Oblivion Dust? Well, this might look like a little familiar, is this a familiar boy to you? It probably is a familiar boy to you. Because it is k.a.z, the well-renowned guitarist of Vamps, and then also of originally, not originally, but also arguably even more famously, he was one of the guitarists in k.a.z band Spread Beaver back in the day. So Oblivion Dust is kind of like another Vamps, if you will, except they've been around, I think, they're significantly older in origin, but I compare it to Vamps because it's like, this is really, really enjoyable kind of music. They had a similar evolution, but just with like a different kind of sound, but they had a similar 2-part evolution as to how Vamps did in terms of their sound. And the end result, I would arguably say I enjoy like the old and new versions of this band. This might be more of my fancy even than Vamps was. So I was completely caught off guard by this band that I personally had not really gotten into a lot. They just kind of fly under the radar of a lot of people internationally. So I'm really excited. I was really excited to write this article and kind of get into it a little bit. Get into the lore, get into the music. So we're going to go through this briefly. You can read the full article. It's up on VKH. It's in the description, like I said. And then we'll talk about the music because there's some stuff to talk about with this music, man. So outside of k.a.z, this band has had a few different lineup changes, but the 3 main members are pictured here, and the other ones, from what I saw on the timelines, it was kind of very much in and out, especially at the beginning. Plenty of support members, as another similarity to Vamps, I would say. But so these 3 that you've got right here, this is the bassist Rikiji, and then this is the vocalist Ken Lloyd. Rikiji, fun fact, I dug a little deep for this one, but he's mostly known for Oblivion Dust, which, by the way, has quite a bit of notoriety in Japan, all things considered. So if you haven't heard of this band, it is kind of, they have notoriety. They've been around for a while in Japan. It's just, it just appears, at least on my radar, it totally slipped under my radar. And, I know Kimiko will say that this is definitely an underrated or underexposed band. So it's one of our viewers. We've had, we have industry friends as well that strongly concur with that opinion. So, but Rikiji was actually, fun fact, he was briefly in a band in the 90s that was called Mega 8 Ball. And that was actually, the vocalist for that was with Ex Malice Misere vocalist Tetsu Takano. But like I said, more primarily, he is known for his role in Oblivion Dust, from what I understand. Ken Lloyd is an interesting fellow. Ken Lloyd is a British-Japanese vocalist. He sings perfectly fluent English, which is a very rare trait. We'll get into how that impacts their music in a little bit, but he is also the vocalist of Fake? Question mark, which is a band you may have heard of, you may have listened to a bit. So if you haven't guessed, the vast majority, at least from what I saw, of Oblivion Dust songs are sung in English. Kind of like how a lot of Vamps's are, except more so. Like the English is more fluent. It trends towards English way more. Actually, I'm not sure if I found a song while I was like just diving into their discography that was fully in Japanese. I wasn't noticing Japanese being sung. From what I understand, Ken Lloyd can write and sing lyrics in both English and Japanese. So, and the English is very fluent, as I said. So, this band was formed in Tokyo in 1996. They had a debut album that was called Looking for Elvis. So the first like real gain in notoriety was when they opened for the UK electronic, I would call them a super group, The Prodigy, when they played a show of 10,000 people in Tokyo. This was in 1998. Fun fact, this was apparently, from what I researched, also that show, that high pressure show, was also Rikiji's audition for the band. So like most legendary high stakes audition ever, potentially. They gained steady traction. All of their albums, I'll say, they definitely break the top 50 in the Oricon charts, from what it seems like. But they did disband in 2001. They did reform in 2007, and they've been together since then. This really does seem to be a band that is was kind of being treated by k.a.z, and I'm assuming also Ken Lloyd, the same way that Hyde was treating Vamps when he was in Larkin CL. So he would be in Larkin CL, and then he would dip out and go do Vamps for a little bit, and then go back to Larkin CL, which is technically his main band. This is k.a.z's version of this, from what I understand. And then Ken Lloyd also has Fake, and then he would be doing stuff with Fake, and then he would dip out and join back with k.a.z for Oblivion Dust. So they've released several albums. Musically, they started with I put here a throwback hard rock sound, very clearly influenced by 90s grunge bands from the US. It's very, very catchy. I would compare it to like the original. You can very clearly see where Vamps's original throwback rock sound came from, because that was obviously k.a.z had a hand in that along with Hyde. But this is like an even more authentic version of that, because this sound started in the 90s, late 90s granted, but it's very much like that, slightly old school, full of attitude and fun riffs. So all of their songs from, when they started up through when they disbanded in 2001, very much like fun driving music, very catchy stuff. It's really some top tier throwback rock music. And that sound actually still persists today. It's changed as they've evolved since they reformed. So basically, when they reunited, they shifted gradually over the albums they released subsequently to a more of an alt rock sound. And so for like those of you who need a quick refresher on the lingo, so alt rock and alt metal, those are really broad umbrella subgenres of rock and metal that just throw the genre of rock like into as many other they just throw in as like a wide array of other genres to experiment. So alt rock is, you know, in the US can be something like Coldplay or Maroon 5 could, you know, be considered alt rock, Imagine Dragons, that sort of thing. We get really kind of wild and poppy with it here. Traditionally it was more about being based around the guitars and the rock instruments with like pop influences or electronic influences, or insert another genre here influences, and that's a bit more of what Oblivion Dust is doing. Now, the alt rock sound that they've gone with is it's a very, very slick sound, very well produced, well you know, excellent programming. k.a.z is also credited with the programming and for a lot of these songs, in addition to just being on guitar. And man, it's a really slick sound with like these, like, it almost sounds like, you know, it's like that thing I've talked about where it's sometimes you can't tell if it's a guitar, a distorted guitar, distorted bass, or like some distorted synth that they put in the background. Like LMC's been doing that lately. You know, Alexandros has kind of started to do that. These guys are doing it really, 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 really well. The last album they put out was a mini album in 2016 called Dirt, and I had been so focused on their the older songs. They have a best of album that's like from their songs up through 2001, and they were all just really catchy, really fun songs. And so I was listening to a lot of that, and then I remembered, I was like, oh man, I need to like check out their newer stuff and see, you know, what the shift was like. And so I downloaded Dirt from Apple Music, and it blew me away. First of all, they really preserved that like grunge throwback like attitude that they had, but then they layered on this kind of like really well programmed, like almost electro rock sound. It kind of reminds me of like late Boom Boom Satellites to a degree. I'm actually not sure. I don't even know if Boom Boom Satellites is still around, but they were like a really fun band, but less repetition compared to Boom Boom Satellites, and more focus on like keeping the rocker attitude in it. And it just results in these like rapid, fast paced, like really, really enjoyable tracks. I am obsessed with Dirt right now, which is a weird statement to clip out of context, so don't do that. But the mini album, and it's got great attitude, and the programming, the production is top tier. The riffs are delicious. You know, and you know, it's just put together so well, and it's done in a very specific way that it's like Vamps, when they went from their throwback sound to their version of this, which they basically did a lot of alt rock and hard rock, you know, as they shifted into Bloodsuckers and then into Underworld, their last album. But they really abandoned the throwback like sound that they used to have from stuff like Love Addict and Revolution and songs like that. They kind of tossed that a lot, not entirely. You see it more in the party songs, I guess, but they really, I shouldn't say tossed, it's like they really focused on modernizing. These guys, Oblivion Dust, it really still feels like them, but just with, it sounds like them, but just with this really nice overhaul and sheen. And you can tell it's like they made a very focused experimental shift and kept their core identity. And I just haven't seen a band nail it this well, like a Japanese band nail it this well, and be this consistent with it in a really long time. You know, one of the things I love about Japanese rock music is that they're very experimental, but a lot of times that, you know, if you go through a catalog, you know, the albums, they kind of come off a little bit ADD in that they just like suddenly will like shift halfway through like the band's life cycle, or they'll just be all over the place. And, you know, it's a little discombobulating. It's usually pretty enjoyable, but like, I didn't know what I was missing in terms of like a steady catalog progression of releases, the way that Oblivion Dust is done. So, and I put this in here, you know, if you've enjoyed any of k.a.z's work in Vamps, you know, like the throwback sound, the newer, more experimental stuff, there's going to be an Oblivion Dust song, probably an album that you're bound to really enjoy. It's very simple on paper, artfully implemented in practice. I think what they're doing, I think it's really underrated how difficult it is to just get this nice simple formula done and implemented in like this modern production style in this modern year, you know, like, or the modern year of 2016 being their last release. It's just a nice, straightforward formula that you just don't see a lot of anymore, with one twist, and one twist that they just absolutely nailed, and upgraded their sound without losing their sound. It's just so, I just like all the props in the world to them in terms of like pulling that off, I guess would be like my general, I guess, thoughts on that. Yeah, so I'm just really impressed by that. Really impressed by their catalog. I still listen to their older stuff. Very enjoyable. I recommended Radio Songs, which is the best of Oblivion Dust. Excuse me. Literally, Radio Song is probably one of my favorite songs, along with Designer Fetus. I included the Designer Fetus PV here. It is on Avex's YouTube channel. But really, all of these songs were just really fun to breeze through. Really nice driving music, really fun throwback music. Very much enjoyed it. And then I would say for the newer sounds, I highly recommend Dirt, man. It's like I was joking in Discord, it's a 7-way tie of all 7 tracks in terms of my favorite songs. I'd say Death Surf and Lolita are definitely like 2 of like probably my absolute favorite. Evidence is pretty good too. I kind of like the lyrics in Evidence because it's like it is literally like, I forget what it is exactly, but it's like in the chorus it's like I'll infiltrate with my evidence. I used to be in speech and debate in high school, so I was like, oh, I could have used this back then. Like, when you're in a debate and you whip out like that sick research that you had to back up your point, it's like, oh, that's the perfect theme song for that. So there's a little bit of debate nerd coming out in me right there. Yeah, I'm so cool. I'm so punk rock, guys. But so this is all available on Apple Music. It is doing that thing where it is the Oblivion Dust in camel case that has Dirt, and then Oblivion Dust in all caps is separate and has a lot of their other albums. So just keep an eye out for that when you search it. You can just go to the album itself and check it out. The most consistent place to get it is on Apple Music. I was only able to find all caps Oblivion Dust on Spotify. They have a live performance where PV basically where it's of Death Surf at Studio Coast, the Studio Coast venue, and it's overlaid. It's the live footage overlaid with the song itself. The full album is also in a playlist, like an official YouTube playlist under the Oblivion Dust topic in Japan, or on YouTube. It's been provided to YouTube from their label. So if you see that floating around YouTube, that is official. Any of the actually, let me go ahead and see if I can find that real quick. If I do, let's see. So, okay, you see this playlist here. If you pull it up, what's an example? Okay, so like Lolita here. Oh, okay, yeah, that's interesting. So I guess it doesn't show up. I guess it doesn't show up to you guys. That's why I suspected. So if you have YouTube Red, you'll see these kinds of, if I can zoom in a little bit on it, you'll see these kinds of, I guess I can't. You'll see these kinds of thumbnailed videos where it just looks like it's a song just floating out there. If you've got YouTube Red, it used to be available to everyone, but I think when they rolled out YouTube Red, which I have on my personal account, now it's only available there. That's like YouTube's Spotify version. So they'll just merge like anything they don't have from like music videos and stuff on their official channels. They'll add in the tracks they've also been provided through the, you know, whatever streaming database they're doing. So this is, if you've got YouTube Red, that's another way you can get this stuff. But yeah, that's about it. I just really can't speak highly enough about like the actual sound of this band. Just the style. It's just, you know, it's just done so well. And it's not anything extra or insane or wild or wildly experimental. It's very measured. It's like very obviously professionals being like, this is a really nice kind of music we want to make, and we did it really, really well. And we didn't stretch ourselves. We didn't overreach. So if you enjoy k.a.z and you want to see what it's like when he's just in his home base and just like doing his absolute, you know, best kind of work with like the most, you know, like stable, best kind of music, Oblivion Dust. That's what you want to check out. So I strongly recommend checking him out. Really hoping now that Hyde is off doing his solo project, really hoping to see, you know, a new release from Oblivion Dust. A 2018 Oblivion Dust album would be, I can't even imagine how dope it would be. Also, this band would do really, really well here in the States. I would argue they would do better than Vamps. If for nothing else, because Ken Lloyd's vocals are still that much more. It's a noticeable notch up from Hyde's current English vocals. No disrespect to Hyde, but if we're thinking in the cruel, brutal reality of the you know, English speaking music market, they're looking for fluency. They're looking for pure fluency, as little accent as possible, or accent that is like disguised with like rock accent, like rock over pronunciation. These guys are nailing it in terms of that. Ken Lloyd, you know, is nailing it, and obviously he has a natural advantage being, you know, he is half British. He was raised in Japan. He is bilingual. I would just say there is a natural advantage in terms of like their singing and their lyrics and things like that over a lot of other bands. Kind of similar thing to Cold Rain, yeah, and just the sound itself, it's very modern, but it's got that throwback sound that our music industry just seems to be, just can't let go of. You know, the fucking #1 selling rock album is Greta Van Fleet's newest album, and it's basically it's a rip-off. It's an oldies rip-off basically. So we're obsessed with that, but then at the same time we like the modern sound. The EDM craze is still a thing. It will probably be a thing for a very long time. So they have everything going for them, like all these nice components that could really strike a nice chord, like find a you know, a solid niche. You know, if they were to tour over here a bit. So yeah. So that's my general take on Oblivion Dust. Strongly recommend. Again, link is in the description for the full article with the links to where you can get their music on streaming services. And let's see what if there's anything in chat. Yeah, it's basically Kimiko's like, I told you so. You know, I finally got you to listen to Oblivion Dust. I am happy. Yes, thank you very much. Very, you know, our regular viewers, our patron supporters, you know, every time I make a post in the Patreon page, everybody, you know, participates and when I post in the Discord, by the way, VKH does have a Discord server that you can join and meet and talk with other friends about any kind of band that you're interested in. We probably have a channel for it, or I'll add a channel for it. We have like great conversations going on. It's really starting to pick up steam. And we, you know, I get a lot of feedback and take requests and things like that in the Discord, you know, in terms of different content to see on VKH. And, you know, we have little special events that go on in there. You should definitely join it. You know, we're just trying to connect the community of J-Rock and Visual K, you know, fans. But you know, every time I post in there, you know, people have like, you know, all kinds of great recommendations. You know, really great stuff. Really great stuff from the VKH Live viewers. So, all right. So with that, we'll go ahead and call this one. We'll call it a wrap on this one. Nice, short, sweet, to the point. But you know, guys, really check out this band. It's really enjoyable. So thanks so much for watching. I will see you guys back here in about 25 minutes at 7:30. We're going to be going over Christ Plus, which is Kimiko's other request that we're doing today. We have an artist profile out for that. I will have a stream scheduled for it as soon as I get off of here. And we will see you shortly. So again, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, hit like. If you're new, hit subscribe. Feel free to share it around. Yeah. We'll talk to you guys later. Peace.